Well, what have we learned a week into Georgia's first practices of the 2022 season? I'm going to recap some of those things right now. We've gotten the chance to see a little bit of the dogs practice, and I'll tell you, when you just look overall at this team, there are guys everywhere that can really be difference makers. The two things that jump out to me in the time that I've seen Georgia so far is that the defensive line is the part that I'm going to be watching the most at the beginning of the season. When you take a look at the Oregon game, Oregon is a top 15 team. They have legitimate players. They have legitimate, guys. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia, but they've got enough guys that this isn't, App State or the Citadel. Okay, their performance, Georgia's performance on the defensive line, the front seven, but their performance in the Oregon game is gonna uh, tell us a lot. If it's a mediocre performance, Oregon comes in and rushes for 160 yards or something like that. I think that'd be a red flag. Unless I mean, there's always caveats, right? But I think if you come into that game and you don't really slow Oregon down on the ground the way that Utah has in the recent past, that's a problem. If it is much more like we've seen generally speaking, I mean, Georgia under Kirby does not allow the run game to occur very effectively or efficiently or whatever you want to call it. It's not common that you can effectively run against Georgia. I mean, in fact, when you think about the 2020 win for the Gators over Georgia, Georgia outran them, but Florida ran enough to where it was problematic for the Dogs, and that's why Florida won that game. They ran enough. I think it was 120 or 120, something like that. But and then the other thing too, the national championship game, the 2021 national championship game against Alabama. Excuse me, SEC championship game. Excuse me, against Alabama in 21. Alabama ran it enough, and Bryce Young was one of the reasons why they ran it enough. So that's the one thing that I'm looking for to see is, hey, are they doing enough on the ground to stop Oregon? Because the next week is against Samford. It's going to be hard to make a lot of judgments there, and then you go right into South Carolina. So you what you've always been able to depend on with Kirby's group or Kirby's teams is that they can slow the run down. The other thing, excuse me, that I've noticed in watching this team is well, two things on the offensive side of the ball. Number one, the offensive line really looks legit, big, whatever, however you want to describe it. They look like the real deal. That's what they look like. And we already know what Warren McClendon can do. Broderick Jones had a good end of the season in 21. We know Cedric Van Pran is one of the best centers in the league, if not the best center. Okay. So the question is, will Willock and Tate, if Tate Ratledge, if they are the starting guards, will they be as effective as Georgia's guards were a season ago? There were times when the guard play was a touch of an adventure. That's not what you want. That assumes that those guys are going to be your starting guards. We don't know that. I mean, it could be Warren Erickson, it could be Xavier Truss, and I'm not just saying that. Both those guys, particularly Warren, has been a starter, not just has started, but he's been a starter. So, and there's been times when Warren Erickson's really played well, okay? But when you're trying to grapple with folks, maybe that's not the number one thing for him. He would be this is going to sound like an insult, and I don't mean it that way. I mean it as a compliment. He probably would have been a really good lineman in the Mark Richt era where these guys were getting out, trying to create angles and all these things, not just like these giant maulers that Georgia seems to have. But I'll tell you right now, the O line, they have, I mean, I think they have a legit 10 guys. Now, it's easy to say that right now. We will see if they have a legit 10 guys as time goes on, okay? But when you look at the board, and I'm not going to turn the board every single time I'm on here, but when you look at the board and you see Erickson, Truss, McClendon, Ratledge, Van Pran, Jones, uh, Willock, Mims, Morris, Fairchild, and Green. That's just that group. You're doing okay. I mean, maybe they have 8, but I would say they've got 10. I mean, if Willock's starting and you're pushing Truss and Erickson, who are older guys that have started, if you're pushing them to the number 2 unit, um, then that means he's winning that job. I mean, I didn't even say Tet Ratledge, did I? I don't know. Hey, look, make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. It's been really well received. Obviously, if you get it now before I run out of them, you will get the season preview, the yearbook. Look, but I can't know when I'm going to run out of it, so order it now. What I mean by I can't know when I'm going to run out of it is I'm getting pretty close to running out of these. So make sure you order this today. The link is still down below for just the yearbook and DAWGSTRUCTION. Of course, the link is below. You buy DAWGSTRUCTION, you get the 2022 preview for free. Take advantage of this now. This offer is not going to last a lot longer. I'm just going to let you know that. It's been a good 2-month run, and I am running out of magazines for sure. The other thing that I want to talk about, what we kind of, I don't know about but what we've learned is that this offense could be like I don't know about fast paced. That's probably not the right word, but they look very different. I've covered Georgia for 20 plus years, and I don't remember seeing a lot of movement the way that I've seen lately at Georgia in terms of their quarterback and skill guys. Um, so it could just be a practice thing, but I feel like I've been around the block long enough to know that these guys are like shooting out like spiders off of the offensive line. I mean, off of the line of scrimmage. I mean, they're bunched up and they're going all sorts of places. I mean, I'm sure you could guard them in man. I'm sure you could. That is perfectly adequate way to guard. But I don't know if you can guard. I don't know if you can man up AD Mitchell. I mean, we saw what happened when you did that. Um, and I mean, you know, uh, DeAndre Baker, this is what happened when Alabama manned up Mitchell. It only takes one play. When DeAndre Baker, who is one of the best corners Georgia's had in a long time, went man a lot against Deebo Samuel, who is one of the best players in the NFL, he basically shut him down. So if you have a good defense, you can play man. I'm not sure there's a lot of defenses that are going to play man and not pay for it on this schedule. Maybe Oregon is in a situation where they can do that. Maybe Carolina. I think Carolina does have some decent DBs, but if you're not getting pressure, it's tough to play man. It's tough to play man, period. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is if you're going to roll zone out there on them, I think that could be a tricky way to, I mean, maybe you make them earn it all the time. I don't know. But um, part of my prejudice towards man is that's all we played in basketball in college. And I really feel like it is the ultimate way to play. But if you can't play it, then you can't play it. I mean, if someone's really good, you're not going to stand up. I mean, if someone can really want to score, it's going to be a hard time playing man. But again, there's ways to defeat man and zone. So I think the way that these guys look, um, they look like they are capable of scoring a lot of points. Now, whether they will or not, I don't know. They're going to have to score more points if they want their margin of error to be the same as it was a season ago. When you look at last year, and all this is in DAWGSTRUCTION, uh, they just didn't allow over 20 points a game. I mean, it just didn't happen. It happened once, and they lost that game. Um, so when you're allowing 3, 7, 13, 0, 0, 10, 13, 7, 6, 17, 6, 7, 0, 41, 11, 18. I mean, they were 14-1 in games where they were allowed fewer than 20 points. Well, okay. I mean, yeah, they were, they were, this is the crazy part. They were 14-1 in games where they scored 10 points or more. 10 points or more. I mean, what is going on around here? So, I could see if Alabama had scored 41 and Georgia scored 10. No, they scored 24. I mean, you know, uh, this offense could be better than people realize. Um, and Ryan's been talking about this a lot. And maybe this is his bias or prejudice or perspective, whatever you want to call it. But he really feels like the running backs are going to be involved in the passing game, which if they were involved last year, right? I mean, but you're talking about going from Zamir and James Cook to Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton and Edwards. I mean, so those three, perhaps, I don't know. I mean, Kenny, I don't think Kenny is better in the passing game than James Cook. He might just be better in the passing game than he is the typical running back than the typical running back is. That's very nuanced. But I like this offense, but we're gonna have to see it. I mean, like a season ago, Oregon. The problem with Oregon, as I've seen it at least, was that they were really beaten up by power teams. So, like Utah, that was a problem for them. Stanford, that was a problem for them. And yeah, Stanford is a power team. They're just not good. So, that was problematic. They didn't allow a ton of points on a lot of games, but by the end of the year, they were kind of getting beaten up a little bit. I mean, twice with Utah scoring 38 points, and then Oklahoma with 47 points. There's no shame in Oklahoma running up and down the field on you, but that you don't want that many points to be allowed. But I am going to be. I mean, it is all. I think in this first 7 days of practice, we've seen Georgia do those particular things have been what I've noticed the most. And I think those are the key to the season. I did not talk about the inside linebackers, but we can talk about that on some other time.